That Sunday afternoon, I was playing catch with my 3-year-old son Ethan in our backyard. His bright blue eyes, the same shade as his mother Harper, sparkled with pure joy. His dark brown hair, just like mine, was messy from running around. Life felt perfect. Everything I ever wanted was right there in front of me. But I had no idea that in just a few weeks, someone in my own family would try to destroy everything I had built. And that person was my sister-in-law, Priscilla. Before we dive into this story, let me know in the comments where you are watching from today. If you enjoy stories about karma and truth coming to light, hit that like button and subscribe to this channel. Trust me, you will want to stay until the end to see how this all unfolds. Now let me take you back to the beginning. My name is Miles and I am 32 years old. I met Harper during our sophomore year at the University of Texas. She was studying to become a teacher, and I was pursuing a degree in computer science. From the moment I saw her in that crowded coffee shop near campus, I knew she was special. We dated for 4 years before I finally got down on one knee at the same coffee shop where we first met. Our wedding was simple but beautiful. We could not afford anything fancy, but it did not matter. What mattered was that we had each other. After graduation, I landed a job as a software engineer at a growing startup in Austin. The pay was decent, and more importantly, it gave us stability. Harper got her teaching certificate and started working at a local elementary school. She loved those kids like they were her own. 3 years ago, our lives changed forever when Ethan was born. I still remember holding him for the first time, his tiny fingers wrapping around my thumb. He had Harper's striking blue eyes and my dark hair. From that moment, I promised myself I would do everything in my power to give him a good life. We lived in a modest 3-bedroom house in the suburbs of Austin. It was not a mansion, but it was ours. Every evening we would have dinner together at our small kitchen table. On weekends we would take Ethan to the park or have picnics in the backyard. Life was simple, but it was filled with love. That was all that mattered to us. My older brother Derek was a different story. He was 3 years older than me, and had always been the golden child in our family. While I was the quiet kid who liked computers, Derek was the star athlete, the straight-A student, the one our parents, Frank and Dorothy, always bragged about to their friends. After college, Derek went to law school and became a successful attorney at a prestigious firm in Houston. He drove a luxury car, wore expensive suits, and lived in a massive house in a gated community. Derek married Priscilla about 7 years ago. She came from a wealthy family and was used to getting whatever she wanted. From the beginning, there was something about her that made me uncomfortable. She always had this way of looking at people like she was measuring their worth. Every time we visited, she would make subtle comments about our small house, our older car, or Harper's job as a teacher. Nothing was ever good enough in her eyes. Derek and Priscilla had a daughter named Lily who was 5 years old. She was a sweet kid, and I always felt bad that she had to grow up with a mother like Priscilla. Derek worked long hours at the firm, often traveling for business, which left Priscilla alone most of the time. I think that loneliness turned into bitterness, and she took it out on everyone around her. The trouble started at Ethan's 3rd birthday party. We hosted it at my parents' house in San Antonio, about an hour-and-a-half drive from Austin. It was nothing fancy, just family, some cake, and a few presents. Ethan was so excited, running around in his little birthday hat, completely oblivious to the storm that was brewing. Priscilla arrived with Derek and Lily already wearing that look of condescension she always had when visiting our side of the family. She made a comment about how quaint my parents' house was, which I chose to ignore. But then I noticed her staring at Ethan in a strange way throughout the party. At one point, she walked up to me while I was cutting the cake. "You know, it is interesting," she said, tilting her head. "Ethan has such beautiful blue eyes. But yours are brown, Miles. So are your parents' eyes." "Where do you think he got them from?" I felt my jaw tighten. "From Harper," I said calmly. "Her eyes are blue. It is called genetics." Priscilla smiled, but it did not reach her eyes. "Of course. I was just wondering. You know how sometimes there are secrets in families that people try to hide?" Before I could respond, Harper came over, and Priscilla walked away. Still wearing that smug smile, the rest of the party felt awkward. My mother, Dorothy, kept looking between me and Priscilla, sensing that something was wrong, but not knowing what. When everyone left that evening, Harper asked me if everything was okay. I told her it was nothing, just Priscilla being Priscilla. But deep down, I had a bad feeling about what was coming. A few weeks later, that bad feeling became reality. I was at work when my old college friend Marcus called me out of the blue. We exchanged pleasantries for a minute before he got to the real reason for his call. "Look, Miles, I do not know how to say this," Marcus said, sounding uncomfortable, "but I was at a dinner party last weekend and your sister-in-law was there. She was telling everyone that your son might not actually be yours. She said something about his eye color being suspicious and how Harper might have cheated on you." My blood ran cold. I thanked Marcus for letting me know and hung up. For a long moment, I just sat at my desk, unable to move. I could not believe that Priscilla would stoop so low, spreading rumors about my wife, about my son to people we knew. It felt like a knife in my back. That night, I told Harper everything. She broke down crying, her whole body shaking with sobs. "Miles, I swear to you, I have never been with anyone else," she said through her tears. "Ethan is your son." How could she say something like that? I held her tight and told her I believed her. And I meant it. Harper was the most honest person I had ever known. There was not a single doubt in my mind about her faithfulness. But knowing the truth did not make the situation any less painful. Priscilla was actively trying to destroy our reputation, our family, our lives. The next day, I called Derek. I tried to stay calm as I explained what Priscilla had been saying about Harper and Ethan. I expected him to be horrified, to apologize, to promise he would talk to his wife and make her stop. Instead, his response made my heart sink. "Miles, I think you are overreacting," Derek said dismissively. "Priscilla is just concerned about the family. Maybe if you just did a DNA test, it would clear everything up and we could all move on." I could not believe what I was hearing. "Are you seriously taking her side?" I asked, my voice rising. "She is spreading lies about my wife and you think I should prove my son is mine to make her feel better." "I am not taking sides," Derek said, though his tone suggested otherwise. "I'm just saying, if you have nothing to hide, what is the big deal?" I hung up without saying goodbye. In that moment, I realized that my own brother, the person I had looked up to my entire life, had chosen to stand with his wife against me. The betrayal cut deeper than I ever thought possible. The weeks that followed were some of the hardest of my life. The rumors Priscilla spread did not stay contained. They reached my parents, my extended family, even some of Harper's colleagues at the school where she taught. My mother, Dorothy, called me one evening, her voice trembling. "Miles, honey, I need to ask you something and I need you to be honest with me. Is there any truth to what Priscilla is saying?" The fact that my own mother felt the need to ask that question broke something inside me. "No, Mom," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "Harper has never cheated on me. Ethan is my son. Priscilla is lying." There was a pause on the other end. "I believe you, sweetheart," my mother finally said. But the hesitation before her answer told me everything I needed to know. Even she had doubts. My father, Frank, was worse. He did not call at all. When I reached out to him, his responses were short and distant. It was clear that he had already made up his mind, and it was not in my favor. Harper suffered the most. She stopped wanting to visit my family, and I could not blame her. At work, her colleagues started treating her differently. There were whispers in the teacher's lounge, sideways glances in the hallways. One day, she came home and told me she had lost 5 pounds because she could barely eat anymore. Seeing her like that, so broken and defeated, filled me with a rage I had never experienced before. I knew I had to confront Priscilla directly. So one Saturday morning, I drove the 3 hours to Houston without telling anyone. I showed up at Derek's massive house and rang the doorbell. Priscilla answered, and for a split second I saw surprise flash across her face before she composed herself. "Miles," she said coolly, "what brings you here?" "You know exactly why I am here," I said, stepping inside without waiting for an invitation. "I want you to stop spreading lies about my wife and my son. Whatever game you are playing, it ends now." Priscilla crossed her arms and smiled that infuriating smile. "I am not playing any games. I am simply looking out for this family." "If Harper has nothing to hide, why are you so defensive?" "Because you are destroying our lives with your lies," I shot back. "My wife is falling apart. My parents barely talk to me. And for what?" "What did we ever do to you?" Priscilla shrugged. "If you are so confident that Ethan is yours, then just take a DNA test. Prove me wrong. Unless, of course, you are afraid of what the results might show." Before I could respond, Derek walked into the room. He had clearly heard the last part of our conversation. "Miles, what are you doing here?" he asked, frowning. "Trying to get your wife to stop ruining my family," I said. "But apparently you are okay with what she is doing." Derek sighed like I was a child throwing a tantrum. "Look, maybe you should just consider doing the test. It would put all of this to rest." I stared at my brother, the man who shared my blood, who grew up in the same house as me, who I used to idolize. And I realized I did not recognize him anymore. Without another word, I turned and walked out of that house, slamming the door behind me. 2 weeks later, my mother called to say she was organizing a family dinner. She said it was time to address everything that had been happening and try to find some resolution. I did not want to go. Neither did Harper. But my mother pleaded, and ultimately, we agreed. Maybe I thought this would be the chance to finally clear our names.